Welcome back to the 100K AFL preview show. The show where we're previewing every team with the same scorecard for the upcoming 2024 AFL season. We are up to the Essendon Bombers. Darc, how are you, brother?
I'm very good, Jev. Really enjoying going through. For anyone that is new listening, we've got about a 20, 25-minute episode per team. We've got the same list of questions that we're going to go through. Bit of a recap from last year. And then obviously pretty much going through the depth of most sides and strength of schedules, things like that, and a couple of takes for the season. Let's get off with the Bombers, Jev. Last season finished 11th on the ladder. Finished 11 wins and 12 losses. Started off like a house on fire and we're looking like the brand new Bombers, and then sort of mailed it in towards the back end of the season. The first question we go through, Jev, competition A graders. Who do you see the Bombers as a competition A grader? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many have you got?
I went back and forth on this, and so badly I wanted to say none. And I was interested what you were going to say. But I'll go one. I'll go Zach Merritt. I reckon Zach Merritt is a very good footballer. I'm going to say he's a competition A grader, but he's right on the borderline of competition A grader. I wanted to say 0, but I'll say 1. What about you, Darc?
I had the same, Jev. Zach Merritt, really good player. I thought, especially last year, not having to try and win the ball as much and went back and tried to do a little bit more of the team things. I just think his leadership's definitely there. And what he does for them, like 6.6 score involvements a game, still gets the ball almost 30 times a game. It just a tick under 75% efficiency. Almost what I was saying with like Darc. He's not just trying to just pick the easy way. He does try and break the lines a little bit. I would have him as a competition A grader, Jev, for that position. You go.
Yeah, position A graders. Give me your position A graders.
I've only got one, and I've had to really rope him into this sort of category. It is that big clearance midfielder, and that would be Darcy Parish. When you go through and you think of who else are the big body midfielders in that same category, if you would think of a Cripps, a Tom Green, an Oliver, and a Cripps. So I think I said him twice. Yeah. But all those four have pretty much the same in elite. Darcy Parish is actually the most in clearances, 7.7 clearances a game, 6.5 score involvements, 30.8 disposals, and pretty much goes around with it at 70-ish percent. Just under 70%. But his biggest thing is when he's trying to with his tackling, and just how much more pressure can he put on the opposition? Like you look at Tom Green breaks the lines a little bit more. So does Cripps. I think as a clearance player though, Darcy Parish does what he does, and he's so good at that. How much more can we put on the rest of his team to pick up the slack? Like, what if you had a forward that could keep it in a little bit more, kicks a few more goals, makes look what he's doing so much? When was it? 2 years ago, he won those 3 best ons, like the Anzac Day medal, the Dream Time, and then I'm pretty sure that there was another one that he won, and just stood up clearance-wise in those big games. I think that we underestimate how good he is at clearances. He's not that quick, but he's like a Rolls Royce around there when you do watch him. He's pretty much the only one. I had a good look through the list. Like, I don't think we can throw out A grade too much, but I think Darcy Parish for that position, if we rope him in, I would have him as that. What about you?
Yeah, when you say, you can't throw out that A grade, I think these guys are a bit better than notable role players, but A grade is sort of touch and go, sort of like Zach Merritt. So this is when we did our Carlton preview, Darc, we said they had 4 competition A graders, but then 0 position A graders. This is where I think Essendon, so they got Darcy Parish. I like Mason Redman. I think he's a good halfback. Kyle Langford, like he's a good general forward. I like him as a player. He's better than just a role player. Jordan Ridley, like he's a good footballer. He's better than just a backman. He's better than just a notable role player. And then I wrote Jake Stringer. Like, what can we get out of Jake Stringer? Because his best and worst are that far apart. And when he's at his best, he's he's borderline competition A grader. I don't even know what position he plays, but he's just Dustin Martin-esque, unbelievable. But when he's at his fucking worst, he's get this bloke to the 2 sort of thing. I can't stand him on my side. So I wrote down those 5 names. It's a bit back and forth. I just think they're a little better than just putting them in the notable role players sort of category, Darc.
Yeah, as I said, it's stiff. It's like, but if we're just saying A grade, I feel there's only a few like notable role players. I think he's more than that. Nick Martin. Yeah. He's been elite on the wing. So I think you've pretty much got like the 4 wingers. So you've got Goulden, Josh Dacos, McCluggage, and Nick Martin was definitely in that conversation. Yep. But apparently the word is this year that Nick Martin from training, he's been doing a lot of work on the half back line.
Yep.
So apparently Andy McGrath might be trying to go back to the midfield, and that they trying to get Nick Martin in that role. So I'm not too sure, but like he's definitely above a notable role player. He's one of their best players. Cole Langford as well, Jev. He was unbelievable, close to all Australian. And then, as you said, Mason Redmond, he's one of those half-back line guys that can get up the field and kick a goal as well. But I just think one of the concerning things, so if you said, I'll just use you as the Swans, but if Errol Gould, if all those players in your best side, in the Swan side, who has the highest peak of a game? You'd probably almost say Goulden, and he's almost your best player.
Yeah.
Is it concerning that the Bombers player, if he has the highest ceiling, it's Jake Stringer?
Yeah.
Like his best game is better than anyone's.
Yeah.
It's better than Zach Merritt. Like if Charlie Curno's best game, that he's probably our best player.
Yeah.
So like what can they get him to do to get him firing a little bit more? Because when he's going, like what they said, out of contract, Jake Stringer is one of the scariest players in the AFL. He's a freak.
I just think he's a bit of an idiot, isn't he? There's just rumors of him always being at the pub on the piss, having a punt and stuff. Like, I think he just likes the life, like the pay of being a footballer, but he just doesn't love footy like Nick Dacos. Like, you just hear he lives and breathes football. I just don't think that's Jake Stringer. So it's too hard to talk about him.
What would you say is the depth? What have you gone through? So this is a bit of a question. However you want to take it into consideration.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know much about the Bombers' depth. When you're an average side not making finals, is it depth or is it not good enough? Like when there's changes and guys go from the 2s to the 1s or they come up or whatever, are they good depth players or are they average 1 players that aren't good enough sort of thing? You know, do they really only have 20 AFL standard players on their list and then there's okay players that are trying to get their spot and fighting? It's got to be a mix of, is it a mix of depth or they're actually not that good and they've only probably got 20 players that are good enough to be playing AFL and then they just keep bringing guys up and down from the 2s? It's what I wrote about Essendon's depth. What about you?
Yeah, I just feel that like they're struggling, especially with that tall position. So they took out Zerk Thatcher, but then they brought in Ben Mackay. So that picks them up. But if one of those goes down, and I know it seems so stupid, they picked up Todd Goldstein, but I didn't realize that Sam Draper's groins are still like guitar strings. So apparently if they go, they need another ruckman. I can't remember they've got that young guy that they played him a little bit last year, played a lot in the VFL. He looks massive, almost like a Tim English. I can't remember his name though.
Yeah. I saw it before. Yeah.
He looks all right, but especially with those big position players, like you got Sam Wiedemann sitting there. It's like, what's he doing? Like, you know what I mean? So just those big key position players. Harry Jones, like he needs to come on this year. So
has he
hopefully
eaten this offseason?
Yeah.
Have they fed him? Has he put on a couple?
So there's a few of those guys, Jev. So the depth at those big key position players, as you said, Jordan Ridley's he's a gun. He's such a good player. But if you can get those guys firing, there's your spine, and then everything comes off that.
But you got to worry about Ben Mackay. And we say this, like, I always just look at Melbourne. So we all know how good Stephen May and Jake Lever is. But they actually put Adam Tomlinson on your Tom Hawkins, and then May and Lever get across help out because they're such good footy players. Whereas Brandon Zerk Thatcher would go on the Tom Hawkins, but then get 8 kicked on because no one was coming across and helping him out. So when you say Ben Mackay, it's sort of like, okay, when he goes one-on-one, Tom Hawkins, because I've watched him at North Melbourne and he gets a lot of fucking goals kicked on him. So like, you're like, are they going to get a system where they help him out and they don't just leave him on an island? Because he's not that good of he's not a Sam Taylor-esque one-on-one defender where you can leave him on an island. So I worry about Ben Mackay. He could come third in the reverse Coleman behind Brandon Zerk Thatcher this year. He's done it before, so
yeah, it's definitely the proof's going to be in the pudding. So we're just going to have to wait to see what they've done the off season.
Young guns. What do you write down for young guns, Darc?
Yeah, so obviously Nate Caddy, Jev, could be steal of the draft. He was a bit country boy, like a lot of X factor. Him going up forward, I think it's going to be massive for him. Elijah Sardis was their pick 5 the year before. They gave him the number 5, Jev. He's an accumulation machine at the under 18s level. Was getting like averaging high 30s a game. So he's a really good player. He only played the handful of games last year. Was really injured. But the big one I want to know about is, you know, everyone's always talking about the young prototypes. Like you got the Wembanyama. You've got all these guys that just got all the tools. Everyone was saying that to be about Nick Cox. They're like, oh, he can do everything. He can kick it on his left, kick on his right. But he can't really do anything that well.
Yeah.
Like he was going for a set shot. Like, is he a left or right footer? Like, is he a runner or is he a key position player?
Yep.
So I feel you need to pigeonhole him a little bit more because apparently he's got all the talent in the world, but they can't find a spot for him and he can't get on the park. So I want to know about all these, like the prototypes. Give me a player that's ready to go. Like Nate Caddy, you know what he is. He's going to play forward. He's going to contest. He's going to kick goals. Like, what are they going to do with Nick Cox? I'm really intrigued to see because apparently the upside's off the chart. So I don't know what they're going to do with him. What about you?
Yeah, I just wrote down, I like Sardis and I want to see more Elijah Sardis. I'm sure Bombers fans do. They want to see him in the side round one, play all 23. I like the hype around Nate Caddy. It is exciting if you're a Bombers fan. And then can Alwyn Davey Jr. take another leap to us? This guy can play. Like he can play. Can he be, like Cyril, like you do not take that extra step in the forward 50 if he's around. Like, when you play a handball drill or you play keepings off a footy train and he's got the bib on, like they say when Eddie Betts or Cyril had the bib on at training, you just didn't hold onto the ball because they would get it off you. Can he become that guy? I hope he can because they're such valuable role players, those sort of guys. So we'll see.
Who would you have as a dark horse All-Australian or someone else to come into the side?
I really, with the Bombers, it's one of those ones, you got to see it to believe it. I wrote maybe Mason Redman, maybe Kyle Langford. I wrote maybe Wayne Carey, Kyle Langford. But they're just such a team as I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not, like the LA Chargers, I'm not going to tip them to win the division or make the playoffs, or I'm not going to tip the Bombers to make the finals until I fucking see it. And yeah, we'll see. Dark horse All-Australian, probably none. If someone's going to make it, it's going to be Parrish or Merritt, but I don't think they've got anyone good enough to be a dark horse. What about you?
Yeah, I went like just real dark horse, like just to make it, just because I had to sort of pick my brain for it. Look, there's a lot of really good defenders in the league, but I don't know, especially if they can, as you said, system around Ben Mackay coming in, another defender come through. What can Jordan Ridley do? He's had some unbelievable games. For that, like toss-up coin, like if like Sicily goes down, as we said, Maynard, Moore, Wiedering, Harris Andrews. So you've got a lot of these guys, but could he like become a new really big intercept player and make a play for the All-Australian? I don't know. I really like the way he's going with his footy, but as you said, we're going to have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, as we said with Tomlinson, Mainlever, or Lewis Young and Wiedering, whereas Lewis Young always stands on him, they try and free Wiedering up. Jordan Ridley is a good footballer, so hopefully he can take that leap into All-Australian conversation. Even All-Australian squad of 40 would be good. Coach Captain Darc, what did you write down for Coach Captain? This is up to you. What did you write down?
I think there's a lot of merit in being a good coach. Like what have you done as a player and what have you done as a coach elsewhere? Obviously, Brad Scott playing grand finals for Brisbane knows a good standard. When they were at North Melbourne as well, they were making lots of finals as well.
Prelims, yep.
I think his implement last year, when you're coming into a side that hasn't had any success, they would have had the hardest preseason they've ever had. They started before Christmas. Like, we're going to fucking go balls to the wall. And they started the season on fire, but then they burnt out. But what do? You don't come in as a brand new coach and not want to implement hey, this is the standard.
Yeah.
And then you sort of fizz out. So I think it was one of those seasons that they just went all in. Guys, this is what we're doing. Everyone went really hard, but then it sort of fizzled out towards the back end of the year. I think they're going to mature on that a little bit more. I think Brad Scott is a good coach. I think Merritt as a captain is the perfect person for that. Do they have the personnel? I don't know, because at the start of the year, they almost were winning games off the style of play, not the talent on their sheet. So, which is exciting if you're a Bombers fan. We watched them piece Carlton up, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? So, I think there's something there, and I think there's something to do with that, like Brad Scott having personal success, and he has coached before. I think it's a really good matchup. But if they're not making finals again or thereabouts, I think they're a year or two away, to be honest, but there's still always going to be a bit of pressure on the hot seat. What about you?
Yeah, I wrote down they've shown me absolutely nothing, Darc. They show me nothing. Brad Scott has shown me that the standards weren't good enough, and I'm hoping he fucking lifts them for the supporters' sake. And is Zach Merritt coming along as well? They went to Ibiza last off-season, but then they went to Arizona for a training camp this off-season.
That's better.
Is that the first change? Is that the tiny little shift of standards are lifting? Another thing, I'm not going to believe anything till I see it. Like, yeah, they started well. They fell off. What they lose to GWS to? 122 points. Then Collingwood 70. Like, they were embarrassingly bad when the whips were cracking last year. While the Swans and the Blues are on 7-game win streaks to make the finals, they were losing by 122 points. Like, it's just not fucking good enough. So I'm not like same thing. The coach captain have shown me nothing. You got to show me this year sort of thing.
You almost forget about that game against GWS. It was like a nightmare game. Like I forgot until you mentioned it.
Yeah, it was fucked. Strength of schedule, Das.
All right, so we're going to go through. So ranked off the teams that they played last year. Number one, so this is the ranking system that's come out where they predict the ladder should be. So your strength of schedule, number one being the easiest, number 18th being the hardest. It says that the Bombers have the 8th ranked schedule. So the 8th ranked easiest. I don't know about this, Jev.
Yeah,
I went through. So these are the teams that the Bombers are doubling up on.
Yeah.
Adelaide.
Not easy.
Collingwood.
Not easy.
Gold Coast.
Not easy.
Sydney.
Not easy.
St Kilda were a top 8 side and West Coast.
Yeah, it's not fucking easy. So notable home games. What did you write down for notable home games?
I like going through all of them at the MC. Like it doesn't matter. I see them all as like tough games.
Yeah,
I mentioned the teams that you go through. Like what home games are you excited for? Are you excited for Hawthorn round 1? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
I think Hawthorn are going to be a really good side. Like the Bulldogs you're playing in Victoria, like the Bombers, GWS, like North Melbourne once, Richmond twice. Richmond once, but it's just like, I don't know. There's nothing that really jumping out like Freo here, but I'm not really jumping out exciting games. What about you?
Yeah, so all I wrote was from round 19 to 22, they go Saints, Freo, Suns, Swans, all in Melbourne. Can they go on a little 4-game win streak and a run there when they felt as shit last year in those 4 Melbourne games? Can they go on a little run? But apart from that, their schedule looks fucking tough to me, Das. Really tough. And then notable away games. What did you have for notable away games?
Yeah, well, they're versing some of they're lucky that they get Geelong at home. I think a lot of teams are happy that like those big clubs that they get Geelong at home, but playing Gold Coast away, GWS, that they get that one at home. But like even going over to West Coast, they struggle against them every year. We think they're going to blow them up. I just don't see how they got the 8th easiest schedule. I think it's really tough. They got Port Adelaide away. I don't know. What do you have for it?
So I wrote the Swans round 2, Port round 5, Adelaide round 6, or round 7 maybe, the Suns round 12, and then the Lions at the Gabba round 23. I feel like they don't get a good break early where they'll build 2, 3, 4 game win streaks. I reckon it's just going to be win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, and it's going to be no continuity in their season. So, yeah, I find their schedule tough. I don't think they get any breaks. Like as soon as they might get a North and then a West Coast bang, they go to Sydney, play the Swans, or they go Port at Port, they come back to Melbourne for a week, then they go Adelaide at Adelaide. Like they're going to go 1 and 2 in those. So they might, they're still got to play Collingwood, Melbourne, Carlton, all at the G. It's just fucking hard for them.
It is. Where did you have their floor of wins?
They can be a 7-8 win team, unfortunately, to us. Like, look at what I honestly think this about the schedule. I'm not trying to be a dog. Their floor is a 7-8 win team. What about you?
I had 7 wins.
Yeah.
Like I went through and like you're going through, like say you quickly tick them off. You're like, yeah, there's one's like,
Gold Coast get them in Gold Coast and then get them again here. The Swans beat them twice like we do every year. Carlton beat them, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's only 7-8 wins. What about their ceiling of wins? What'd you have?
Like the absolute ceiling, I don't think they had that good of a side, like that good of a year last year. They won 11 games. I feel they would like to think that they improved on the off season. I would like to think that they've gotten another year under a preseason under Brad Scott. I would like to think that I think their ceiling's 12 wins, one more win, and I think that the bookies would think that they're improving, and everyone likes to hit overs. So, where do you have their ceiling?
Oh, well, I think their ceiling is 7th, 8th on the ladder. Like the absolute best is 7th to 8th on the ladder, which is about 13, 14 wins. So I can't say 14, but yeah, 13, 14 wins if they take a massive leap. But that is their like absolute ceiling. And that's the problem. Like we said in our last one, Collingwood's floor is 15 wins and their ceiling is 20. But we know they're going to be in that 5-game range. We've got the Bombers as from 7 wins to 14 wins. Like that is a big gap they've got to close sort of thing. So they're over-under. What did you have for their over-under? I reckon we might have the same here.
I reckon they're going to try and go from last year, but judging off improving, I think they might sit at 11.5.
Yep. All right. The
And
exact same, 11 and a half.
I'm going to take the under.
You're going to take the under. I remember we did a 100K show at the end of last year, and I went through their schedule the second it came out. I had them as a 12-win team. Gone through it again today. I've still got them about a 11, 12-win team. Yeah. I reckon it's going to come out at 11 and a half, and I wouldn't touch it at 11 and a half. I just wouldn't touch it. I just think they're going to be 10, 11, 12-win side sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And as we said, we're going to have to go through and figure out how many wins you can actually give out in a season and figure out that if, like, with the first 4 teams, we're probably going over if you miss the first. So we said we think Adelaide will go over, Brisbane, Carlton, and Collingwood. So there's got to be some unders in there. And Essendon's schedule, yeah, I think it's tough. If it's 11.5 wins, Jev, we'll be going under. We'll be taking that. Do you have a hot take for the Bombers this year?
It's not even a hot take, Das. They aren't playing finals, and they aren't winning a final. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's just not happening this year. The streak will continue. It'll get to however many fucking days it is. It'll go over 8,000 days. Questions will be asked again. Will they stick with Brad Scott or fold like a pack of cards like they always do? Like, they're not playing finals again. So will they show like system improvement that goes, okay, we've got the list, we've got the players, they finish 9th. The next step is they finish 7th. Then they finish top 4. Then they win the flag. Will that show this year? But apart from that, yeah, it's going to be another year of no finals for me. What about you, Dus? Have you got a hot take on the Bombers?
Yeah, I got the Hawks finishing above them.
Yes.
I think, like, I don't care what anyone says about the Hawks. They're young guns. They're dogs. And the way Sam Mitchell just runs them ragged. Yeah, they showed me more in the back end of that year. A win against Brisbane and a big win against Collingwood and a win against the Dogs.
Yeah.
Coming in the back end of the year, like, this team can scrap.
Yeah.
This team can go. I think they've got some younger. I can round 1. I'm going 110 MCG. I think the 15th or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and go back to back with Nick Watson. There's no way he's taller than me, but I'm gonna live my rookie career through his in that first season. But I just think the pressure's on. There's a lot of good teams coming through, and if they lose, if they go below the Hawks, there's going to be some serious noise.
If the Hawks win 3 premierships in a row, then rebuild, then go above Essendon and go back to finals before the Bombers do, it'll be absolutely fucking embarrassing.
It will be. So that's our
I think
preview.
they will too.
That's our preview on the Bombers. We reckon the line might be about 11.5. If that is the case, we'll go under when all the odds come out. We're not trying to be mean, Bombers fans.
I don't want to be mean by saying they're not going to make finals, but the competition's too good. It is so, like I said in the Carlton one before, there's going to be a really good team miss the finals. And it could fucking be the Swans. I said it might be the Blues. The Bombers are not taking the Blues spot. Like, they are not playing finals. So, yeah, that's the Bombers for you. Wonder if we'll cop any hate for this, Das.
No, well, we've just gone through the numbers. This is what we're looking at, depending on last year. So, yeah. Hey, we'd love to get proven wrong.
I'll see you on the next one for Freo, Das.
Yeah, Freo's up next.
Let's go.